Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulillah. Begin in the name of Allah, most gracious, most merciful. And we start our press conference, The State of the Community. Our intention today is to share with the community, the greater community and our nation, the state of the Florida Muslim community, the more than 500,000 Muslim Floridians, and what we are facing and what other brothers and sisters and allies are facing across the nation, and of course here at home. Very common, we talk about or we pledge allegiance and we say justice and liberty for all. And I think for the Muslim community right now and allies, we're asking, does that apply to everyone? As the history of our nation tells us, and the present tells us, that it doesn't hold true for everyone every time. Let me start off by saying this, that we're fielding and receiving and witnessing the highest level of anti-Muslim sentiments that we have seen, even more than post 9/11. And I'll go into that and you'll hear stories from individuals, forgotten individuals, by our president, by our State Department, and by our governor and other elected officials, even at a local level. You know, the issue that we are dealing with right now, it's within our borders and it also goes beyond our borders. And the problem is, you know, when we witness something unjust, when we witness injustice, and our response to it is superficial. Our response to it is superficial and it doesn't address the main core issue. That's dark. But what's darker is to make superficial comments while humanizing one group and dehumanizing another. That's even darker. And that's what we're witnessing, not only on social media and media, but also from our elected officials who have taken an oath to serve justice and liberty for all. And when we talk about why we're here today, what we're witnessing here at home, this is a result of the US's unconditional, unequivocal support of the occupying state of Israel and its injustice that it has been carrying. Now, this is today a 12-day conflict, but it is not a 12-day conflict. It is a 75-year-old conflict. When we're talking about this conflict, we're talking about an ethnic cleansing that's supported by our tax dollars. We're talking about an occupation that is supported by our government. And Gaza, a small strip of land that has 2 million people, majority of them, more than 1 million children, an open-air prison. Today they have been cut off from food, water, electricity, and they're facing indiscriminate bombing of schools, hospitals as we witnessed, mosques and churches, and residential buildings. And 1 million of these people who are already under siege for more than a decade, who already didn't have equal rights, who already didn't have political rights, who already were under siege, now 1 million of them are homeless and dislocated. So let me say to the press also that Florida has one of the largest Muslim communities, but also has one of the largest Palestinian communities. And when I say Palestinian, I want you to understand Palestinian, Muslim, and Christian communities, and Jewish communities, and other communities. So today, no one, our president, the State Department, our governor, no one has yet talked about American Palestinians that are stuck in Gaza right now. No one has. And when we were preparing for this press conference and we wanted to speak to families because we've received dozens and dozens of texts from families with multiple family members that are stuck in Gaza right now. Families testimonials who you will hear They were afraid to come forward because they're afraid of retaliation. They're afraid of being targeted by Islamophobes, people that harbor hate. And we know what hate does. Hate comes in the form of stabbing a 6-year-old boy 26 times. Why? Because he's Muslim Palestinian. That's what hate can do. So today when we see this full-throated unilateral support of one side and complete dehumanization of the other, not only there but here also, it brings fear for the Muslim community. And this is why it's been a struggle to find voices, and I have some courageous voices with me today. It's difficult to find voices to come forward because of what they're witnessing. How do you speak to a matter when your president won't address you? When your State Department will not address you? And what we're receiving and what we're hearing from the State Department, if you all are not aware, the messages are, at the end, good luck. Good luck is what we're telling Americans? That's not what we're telling, but for Palestinian Americans, we're saying good luck. That's where we are as a nation. That's the reality of the preferential treatment, even though we say justice and liberty for all. We as a nation know we have become experts and we lead the world in dehumanizing, in denigrating people. We've done it in the past and we're doing it right now. So the bigotry that emanates is not only from media and social media, it's also from institutions and our elected officials who have a moral obligation to protect every innocent life. And let me reiterate that. What we are saying here is that every life is sacred. Every life is sacred. And what we're saying is that especially our children, they are precious and they deserve protection. Whether they are Christian, Jewish, Muslim, Palestinian, Israeli, American, white, black, Asian, Latino, every child deserves protection. And our elected officials have failed. Our institutions have failed. Right now, the rhetoric that we are seeing, the anti-Muslim sentiment, in the past number of days, we've seen violent assaults on Muslims and our allies. We've seen Muslim Palestinians, pro-Palestinians being targeted specifically by law enforcement. We're seeing a very concerning rise of harassment and bullying on campus by educators, by administrators, and by other students. We've seen death threats against entire families. Why? Because they're saying, hey, there's 2 million innocent people who are, majority of them are children. We've seen vandalism, doxing, incitement of violence against mosques, intimidation of institutions like ours, a civil rights organization, and we're witnessing employment consequences. Employment consequences. People pro-Palestinian, not only Muslim, pro-Palestinian, who are saying that what's happening is unjust, are being fired for standing up and protesting. Let us remind ourselves, every right that we have, the right to vote, and every other right that we have, it was because of peaceful protesting. We're facing Muslims and Palestinians and pro-Palestinian and other allies. Their voices are being suppressed on campus and beyond. And as I mentioned earlier, and it even led to the death of a 6-year-old boy, Wadi', who was stabbed 26 times for being Palestinian. We're also seeing censorship on social media platforms, targeting those who support Palestinian rights, again, be it white, black, Latino, Asian, Arab, queer, Christian, Jew, Muslim, or non-faith. Again, when we see the humanity of one group and completely choose to ignore another, that is the textbook definition of bigotry. And that's what we're witnessing as a nation. Now, of the wonderful, courageous folks that are behind me. Yesterday, I broke down a few times, and I think our team knows that is not very common, dealing with what we deal with every single day. Broke down because I had to speak to multiple people who lost 20, 28 family members while they were on the safe route, so-called, evacuating from the northern parts of Gaza. 28 because of indiscriminate bombing. Many Palestinian Americans today do not want to speak because they're afraid of the retaliation of local officials, state officials, and even beyond. That's the environment that the Muslim, Arab, non-Arab ally community lives on. So today we have families, these are courageous folks. To start off with, I'm going to ask Attorney Hassan Shibli with Muslim Legal to come and address on behalf of his client, Hana al-Nagar. And I hope that you listen to him and her story with your heart. A mother's plea.
In the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, my name is Hassan Shibli, spelled Hassan, last name Shibly. I'm an attorney and the founder of Muslim Legal, a law firm committed to providing ethical legal representation to members of all faiths or no faith at all. We've received over 400 complaints as a response and as a reaction to what's happening overseas right now. 400 complaints of people who are having their social media pages shut down, who are being censored. We've received countless complaints of people facing hate crimes and an increase in FBI surveillance and targeting of leading American Muslims. This has created a very hostile environment, as Imam Abdullah made so clearly, and we want to thank CAIR for hosting this press conference today and inviting my client to speak and bear witness to what she's facing, because amongst the complaints we're also getting is that of Palestinian Americans who have U.S. citizen family members that are stuck overseas in Gaza and unable to escape. We've been trying to assist Ms. al-Najjar have her 5 beautiful children be brought back to the United States. We've received no meaningful support from the U.S. government towards that. At the same time, the U.S. government is sending billions of dollars so that Israel can bomb the over 1 million children of Gaza. They are unable to provide any resources to provide for the safe return of American children home from Gaza. That is outrageous, and it is unacceptable. So our request from the State Department, from Biden, from the U.S. government, number 1, ensure the return of all American citizens, be they Jewish, be they Muslim, Arab, Palestinian, regardless of their background. All lives in this case are equal. And the U.S. government has failed to do anything meaningful to bring back Ms. Hana's children, while at the same time facilitating the bombing of the very city where they live, which has led right now to the deaths of over 1,500 children. And when I see these images, my heart is torn in pieces because I see my own children in their faces. This must stop. And that brings us to our second demand, that the U.S. cease providing the weapons of death to Israel that has been used to kill thousands of Palestinian civilians over the last 12 days. That's been used to kill thousands of mothers and fathers, brothers and sisters, innocent, defenseless children. The data speaks for itself. And I want to make sure that we make both of these requests, because yes, we want Hana's children to return home safe, and we can make that request because they're entitled to it, because they are U.S. citizens, and yet at the same time, their blood is no more sacred, no more valuable than the lives of other children who don't have such a passport. Their lives matter too, and we need an immediate ceasefire and an end of hostilities that is just taking way too many civilian casualties. You'll hear from my client, Hana. She has no idea whether her children are dead or alive today. She has not been able to communicate with them or their father in days. The people of Gaza, 2 million civilians, 1 million of which are children, have been cut off in violation of international law from food, from water, from electricity. They were charging their cell phones so they can tell their family members whether they're still alive or not using car batteries. Those that are taking the evacuation routes provided by the occupying apartheid government of Israel have been targeted by Israeli bombs. Schools have been blown up. Hospitals have been blown up. And one can only imagine the pain of clients like Ms. Hannah al-Najjar, who simply doesn't know whether her children are still here or not and is receiving no support from the government for their safe return. Without further ado, I want to welcome Ms. Hannah al-Najjar to speak.
My name is Hannah Najjar. I'm the mom for 5 kids: Mira, Mara, Abdurrahman, Yasir, Amir. My kids is younger. All of them is under 11 years. My husband in there, I don't know nothing about my kids after they bombing the area they're supposed to be stay in. From that time until now, I try to call, try to do everything to try to know at least where's my kids. My friend in the social media, they try to make a request. They try to help me to find or to know where is my kids. Everyone tell me different story. Some of them, they told me move to Rafah. Some of them, they told me they moved to downtown Khan Yunis. Some of them, they told me they are Ramallah, and this is possible. Some of them, they told me they stay in same the area. Until this moment, I don't know nothing about my kids, and I don't know if they are in the safe area. I don't know if they are. I don't know nothing about my kids. I want to know where is my kids. I connect the Congress. I'm with the connect with the Department of State and also the embassy. They didn't know nothing. They told me when you have any news, let me know. I want to put everyone in the world in my choice. When the mom, she's have 5 kids, 5 beautiful kids under 11 years. She didn't know nothing about them. What I have to do? I don't know nothing about my kids. I want to know where is my kids. I want anyone can help me. Where is my kids? Please tell me. I want to have from the president or from the Congress, senator, department, please do something for the Palestinian, for the U.S. citizen in Gaza. I don't know nothing about my kids. I can't say nothing more than that. I'm sorry.
Before I thank you, Hannah, I know how painful, and it hasn't been easy. As we said, CAIR has received, and my law firm has received many complaints of people who are in similar situation like Hannah, and just about everyone is too scared to speak out right now. I will add that just yesterday, Hannah received news that her close family friend who lives in the neighborhood where her children are supposed to be had all of his children killed by an American-made and provided bomb fired by the Israelis. This is the reality.
Plus, I have also for my family, some have killed. Yeah, I have 17 together, and I have some of them one by one. There is no any safe area or a place in Gaza. There is no safe. If you under the ground, there is no safe area for anybody in Gaza. No one in the safe in Gaza.
Thank you.
And I want you to know there's a lot more stories, but they just didn't have the courage to come out because they're afraid, legitimately afraid of being targeted. Next, and these are difficult to listen to. Next, I want to ask dear brother and dear friend, Pastor Andy Oliver, to read a testimonial from a daughter who spent days crying in search of her father, praying and wishing that he's well. Pastor Andy Oliver.
So these are the words of an American citizen, a Muslim woman whose father and family live in Gaza. She writes, I start my letter by saying peace upon you as we as Arab, Palestinian, Muslim Americans believe in peace and liberty and justice for all. This is why we came here in the first place. She writes, I'm writing this letter to ask for help and assistance with the return of my father to the USA soil. My father is a Palestinian American citizen. He is 88 years old and is from Ashkelon, a city where he is from and grew up. It is 22 miles north of the Gaza Strip today. My father was forced to evacuate in 1948 when he was 13 years old. He ended up in Gaza. They were told back then that they would be allowed to go back when things calmed down. Well, years later, and things got worse. He's a loving, educated man. She writes, I was born in Syria. I am in my late 40s. My father visited Gaza multiple times. Each time he went, he used to say to us, Baba, it is difficult there. People are in harsh conditions, but what keeps them together is hope and dreams of freedom and liberty one day. They are a simple people. Your family and other people are very humble and generous. They will feed you before they feed themselves. She writes, I honestly did not want my father to go this time. He kept saying, I'm getting old, and if I leave this earth, I want to be among my family and see my land. He is now in Gaza. I lost contact with him for a week, and my life has not been the same. I have been crying day in and day out. I have been glued to the TV. I lost my appetite and I lost weight due to the consistent thought that kept occurring in my mind about him being in the dark with no water and no food. And finally, I was able to talk to him. On Sunday morning, October 15th, he texted me saying, things are bad. People are dying. We lost 20 members of our family. Your cousin, his wife, and 3 kids were killed and buried under the rubble. I do not want to talk about it now because it is too painful. I will tell you, inshallah, in God's willing, when I see you again. I am trying to go south. The Israeli threw letters advising the Gaza people to move to the south. They want us to go to Egypt, he wrote. She said, I told him, Baba, go, be safe, but you need to be close to the border so when they open it, you can leave. She said, I told him I filled out the crisis form and sent it to the State Department. They contacted me via phone at 1:30 a.m. on Monday the 16th. The guy said to me, hi, we got your email and your father needs to be at the Rafah border at 9 a.m. Gaza time. He told me this at 8:30 a.m. in Gaza. He is not there. I then started to cry with him on the phone and felt helpless, mad, and frustrated. I told him my dad is old. He is 88 years old. He has no transportation. How are you expecting him to get there? And why am I receiving this call now? What if I did not pick up the phone at 1:30 a.m.? I'm glad that I was up late and able to pick up the phone. I am here and cannot do anything to save my father. She writes, I then realized that he was quiet and did not suggest anything, so I thanked him and hung up the phone. On Monday the 16th at 8 a.m. Florida time, which is 3 p.m. Gaza time, my phone rings. I pick it up and it was my cousin. He said, listen, I cannot talk for long. We do not have much battery or lines, so just letting you know your dad is safe and he is with me and I am taking him and our family close to the Rafah border. I told him I received the call from the State Department and that he was too late. And I started to cry, and he said, be patient. He is safe, and I hope they will reopen it again. I again lost hope, but what kept me going was my dad's voice. He said, I am good. Things are not, but I am safe. I will wait with our extended family, but I might go up north. The reopening might take a long time, and I begged him not to do that and to wait, and he then agreed. My dad is a senior citizen, she writes. He never harmed or hurt anyone. He only wanted to see his family and his country. He is there waiting for help. As an American citizen who believes in justice and freedom for all, please, I am begging you, she writes, help him. We are not second-class citizens. We came to the USA to improve our lives, and he brought us here to be in a safe place because we never had one and were treated as refugees. That's the end of her statement. I want to say, as a pastor, I'm appalled that our governor would spend millions and millions and millions of our tax dollars to go and try to save, 50, 60 people from Israel, and at the same time not allow any Palestinian Americans to find refuge here. As a Christian, I follow Jesus, who is a Palestinian, who in my scriptures at the age of 2 had to flee because of the killing of innocent children. He fled to Egypt. He was a Palestinian refugee. And so for my Christian colleagues and anyone who professes to follow Jesus, please do not talk to me about making room for Jesus in your heart if you cannot make room at this time, in this space, for the Palestinian who needs our help and our safety. As a person of faith, it is incumbent upon us all to be present with those who are marginalized and oppressed. And in this moment, in this time, we need to be present with our siblings who are experiencing this oppression to make sure that the ones that are here and our neighbors are safe, and the ones who need safety, that we advocate for them and make space. Thank you.
Thank you for those words, Pastor. Next, I would like to ask Sister Ida Metkik, who is a community organizer and a very concerned mother who's been working with CAIR Florida as a volunteer over the past few days, really mobilizing the community, listening to the concerns of the community, share a few words and also a testimonial. Sister Ida Metkik.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Aida Ramic Machkic, and that's spelled AIDA MACKIC. I want to take this opportunity to also note a little bit about myself. I immigrated to this country at the age of 11 as a war refugee and a genocide survivor from Bosnia and Herzegovina. And as such, witnessing what is happening right now, we, survivors of genocide from Bosnia, have promised never again. And what we're witnessing is a genocide being committed in this day and age, while politicians go back and forth, while media decides what's factual, what's not. Human lives are being slaughtered. As a witness, I'm called to my community as a survivor of such. It is my duty to my ancestors to ensure that these voices, and when we say never again, we commit to advocating for never again. This past week, in the 12 days, days are merging together now. My community has cried, has raged. I'm part of many PTO groups here locally. My children attend one of the largest Palestinian schools here locally in Tampa Bay. I cannot begin to explain the fear that mothers feel contacting anyone. How can we ensure that our kids are protected? A few days ago, 3 sisters called me. One of them is 15 years old. Her scarf was taken off her head violently here locally. 2 days ago, or last week, we had another sister. All 4 of her tires were slashed because she had a Palestinian slash. As mothers, I'm a mother of 4 children in this community. I am begging the community for unity. I've organized locally and nationally here, interfaith. Pastor Andy has known me. I've stood for Black Lives Matter. I've stood for our bodily rights autonomy. I stand for all injustices, whether that's against my Jewish friends and family, whether that's against our Christian brothers and sisters, any form of bigotry, we will condemn it. But we're pleading that we're not isolated, like we've been isolated. We've felt this. This is triggering the past of the Muslim ban, that we've experienced hate, unprecedented hate in our communities. And so I'm here to read a testimony also of a family here that is affected locally. They came to our office, and again, safety is a concern because we are locally being targeted. And when we have elected officials here, and I've spoken to many of you, and I hope that you hear my plea. Your asymmetrical statements are damaging this community. They're not upholding the values of unity and diversity of this country and what makes us beautiful. This brother came to our office and says that they're afraid to speak out because of the injustices that we've felt here locally. They're afraid. While they were moving, they have family in Gaza. In the northern part of Gaza, they were told, they were asked to move, they were instructed to move from the northern part of Gaza to the southern part of Gaza. As they were mobilizing, the Israeli government and military decided to target civilians after reassuring them that it's a safe corridor. Let me tell you, that family wants to know, they have family members that are buried on these grounds, ancestors that have been there. What are they going to do? What are they going to build on this land? He's thinking, when am I going to be able to visit my family's graves? Is there going to be an amusement park built on the ancestry of our lives that have been lost, an occupation of 75 plus years that's happening? We are tied to that land. So having to contextualize that, having to understand, and so when we're seeking safe passage, but you're shooting at us. And again, as a genocide survivor from Bosnia, I want to remind people, I want to remind the international community that stood silent when in Srebrenica, 8,000 Bosniak boys and men were slaughtered in one day. And guess what? The UN and the international community declared that a safe zone. My brothers and sisters, my community, my humans, we are witnessing the same thing happen. So I implore every single human, this is a human rights issue. What we are witnessing will be written in history books. Ask yourselves, what side of history are you going to be on? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sister Ida. The ask is very clear of our government, of our governor, of everyone else, that we have to address the core issue, and in doing so, we have to ask for an immediate ceasefire so that we can protect lives, all civilians, all children, and we can work to bring all American citizens home. Here at CAIR Florida, we started Every American Safe campaign. Every American Safe campaign. Because nobody's talking about every American safe. It seems to be, again, addressing the humanity of one and not of another. And our goal is to bring awareness to this, again, yet repeated issue that we see in our nation. And let me say this to our governor, our elected officials. What do you gain? What are you trying to gain by toying with the lives of American citizens, by toying with the lives of American Palestinians? Votes, support. You are trying to gain some sort of ground in your political campaign. But the world is watching. And the Muslim community is watching. And our allies are watching. And come election year, we as a community will mobilize. We will hold individuals accountable today, but also tomorrow. And with the grace of God, as my dear brother, Pastor Andy said, we hope that no more innocent lives are lost. We want every side, every child, every family to be protected. We do not call for the protection of one over another. And here at home, we hope that our Jewish brothers and sisters, our Christian brothers and sisters, our brothers and sisters of no faith, all minorities are protected. Again, I thank you for joining us today for this press conference, the State of the Community press conference.